Intended friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Christian Miss Couture. And today we are going to do a snow dyeing experiment, and we're going to be comparing the result of the snow dyeing to some specklings that I've done with the same colors that we use for the snow dyeing, just to see how it's going to be different. Hypothesis for this is that we're going to have a lot of blank spaces, and just due to the fact that it's going to be a speckled experiment, but also that we're going to be using superwash yarn. No, Zoé, non, pas ce côté-là, s'il te plaît, Zoé. Ok, ce côté-là. Sorry, I just got tattooed here, and I can't have her put her claws in the fresh tattoo. Like, it's fresh from yesterday. I can't do that. Okay, so yes, basically we're going to have lots of blank space because one of them will be speckling, and the other one, since it's superwash, we're going to no. Okay, bye. Okay, let's get into the video. Bye. Hello friends, so it's been a while, and what I'm going to do today is a snow dye experimentation. Hopefully it will go well. We had an unexpected amount of snow lately, and it's driving me nuts, so might as well just make it fun. So which color we're going to be working with today are saffron spice, we have platinum, fawn, golden poppy, sage leaf, we have baby blue eye, and we have deep magenta, which are some colors that don't necessarily seem that they would work together, but I want to experiment a little bit more with them. So those are the colors we're going to be working on. So for almost the entire time, I will be wearing a respirator because we only have one pair of lungs and we need to protect them, because we're going to be sprinkling this on top of the snow. So we're going to go into the pan to do the prep for the pan, and after that we're going to grab the actual snow. So I will see you in the pan. So hopefully I'm not going to regret this, but I'm going to already put some citric acid in here, and I will be using the pre-soak water just to have a little bit of liquid here. So this is 2 cups of the pre-soak water. I've pre-soaked so this is my soft sock base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. I'm going to open up a little bit the skein of yarn here so that we have a little bit more surface to work with, because I'm hoping to be able to cover as much of the yarn as possible with the dyes. So this is what we are going to do. Oops, still this is on the wrong side. It should be here. There we go. So sorry, my skein was a tiny bit tingled. Okay, so we already have some liquid in here with the 2 cups of tap water, and that's just because I want to give a nice chance to the color to penetrate the skeins. Okay, so that's good. I don't think I need to add more liquid because when the snow will melt, we're going to have more liquid. Okay, so let's go outside so we can go grab the snow. Okay, let's see you outside. So as you can see, I had my spring stuff out, and that's probably why we had snow. So I'm going to cover up as much as possible the yarn. I should have waited to get my furniture out. But you would say, oh, but Catherine, it's April. Yeah, I know it's April. April Fools, my friends. April Fools. You cannot trust March or April when you live in Canada. Those months. Unless you're in the south portion of BC. Then you can probably trust it a little bit more. And the reason I'm using that snow is because I know my dog didn't eat that snow specifically. So, and there's a lot of moisture in this snow, so that's good. Okay, did I turn it on? Yes, you're on. I'm going to need a little bit more snow, but you know what? I have more cushions that needs to be taken care of. So we're gonna go there. Okay, I think we should be good with that much. Okay, let's get inside then. Okay, so I have a yarn mop on the side so I can wash a little bit my gloves off on there, and I will be wearing my respirator. So I will be a little bit muffled. So let's get into this. Okay, we're going to start with the platinum. Let's do fun. And my goal is to cover the entire portion of snow. I might come back with other colors at some point just to make sure that I am covering everything. Let's add the saffron spice. The color is starting to be a little interesting. Let's add golden poppy. And like I said, I want to be covering the entire snow. I want as little white as possible when we are done adding the color. Now, let's do sage leaf. Like this. Let's do baby blue eye. It's starting to look very interesting. Now we're going to be adding my deep magenta. So we're going to be adding some over here, there, like this, like that. And like this. So you can see that we have a pretty good coverage so far. I think I'm gonna go back over here with some of the color, maybe a little bit more of my sage leaf, just because this is going to be fun. Sorry, I'm making noise because of my yarn mop. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and add a little bit more sage leaf. Like this. like that, maybe tiny bit over here. So it's my hope is that we are able to do a very saturated color, but we never know. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so I think that should be good enough. So it's going to start. It's already starting to melt, which is good. This is what we want. We want the snow to melt, but it's no longer like it is. The dry powder is now clump to the snow, so it's not a health risk because the dry powder is only it's only bad for your lungs when it's in the dry powder form. And I just want to show you my yarn mop looks so pretty. I absolutely love this. This is beautiful. Um yeah, so we're going to let this completely melt. Once it has melted, we are going to set it. So I'm either going to do a steam block or I'm just going to do the regular 30 minutes in the pan. It will really depend on how much liquid we have, so that we have enough liquid to avoid this burning, because we're not repeating that. We're not repeating the burned yarn. So I'm going to let this have its moment, and we're gonna come back. Okay, so as you can see here, oh, I shouldn't move it too much. We almost are done melting the snow, and we have a lot of liquid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on. I should stop moving it. And we're going to be letting it finish melting, but we have enough liquid that I'm not worried about anything from here, so it shouldn't burn or anything. So we're going to wait until we reach between 85 to 95 Celsius, and then we're going to start our 30 minutes from there, because we also have a lot of color, so I don't know how much of that color will bleed, because saffron spice is a color that will bleed. Deep magenta can bleed as well. So we have a few contenders for bleeding, so it's fine. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is we're going to go into a separate pan and we're going to try to um, kind of make a comparison between this very slow and long way of dyeing versus speckling with tap water and all of that. So we're just going to do a comparison between the slow, because technically this is speckling, right? What we've done. So we speckled above the snow, and we're going to do speckling approximately the same way in the other pan. So let's go into the other pan. Okay, so what we're going to do here is basically doing the same thing that we did in the other pan, but without the snow. So I have 5 cups of tap water here, and we have already the citric acid, like I did with the other pan, and here we have the same soft sock base. So it's 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon on fingering weight. So I don't have the heat turned on, but I'm going to turn it on now just to get it started. And we're going to put our respirator, because we only have one pair of lungs and we need to protect them. Okay, and I'm going to try to recreate as much as possible the same pattern of speckling that I did for the first pen. So, and I'm not going to be moving the I'm not going to be flipping or moving or doing anything like that to the skein. And I have my yarn mop on the side. So let's do this. like this. And even though I'm doing the yarn mop, since this is wet, I am going to be using this to make sure that I don't have a whole lot of moisture on my gloves, because we don't want to introduce moisture in our jars of uh, the dyes, because the moisture is not a friend of our dyes. So let's continue here. And I'm very curious to see what we're going to end up with as color wise. It should be very interesting to see what we got over there. And now we are doing the sage leaf. It should be interesting to do the final comparison at the end of this. Baby blue eye. Like that. Okay, now we're going in with our deep magenta. And I like deep magenta because it does spread a little bit. Doesn't it really, we don't need a whole lot of it to be able to spread, which is always great. Okay. I think I'm going to have to do like I did with the other pan and add more baby blue eye and more of my sage leaf, because I don't think it's going to be spreading as much as I would like to. And since I'm not going to be flipping anything, I just want to ensure that we have like a good coverage of all those colors. Okay, let's do this then. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think I'm done with the speckling. So I'm going to remove my gloves and the respirator. Okay, so you can see that we have already the deep magenta spreading quite a bit, which is one of the reasons I wanted to include this color, because I knew that it would take its time. It wouldn't take long actually for the color to spread. I'm just going to turn on the heat for my yarn mops. Look at how pretty they are. So that way we can set those colors as well. I'm going to wait for this pan to reach the right temperature. We're almost there because I can already see some bubbles forming here, which is great. So here, my predictions are that the deep magenta will go through all the layers, or almost all of the layers. However, and probably that my saffron spice will also go deeper. However, the other colors, I don't think they will spread that much, and we're going to have a lot of negative space. So it's going to be a true speckled yarn versus the other one. From what I can observe in the pan right now, on the other one, we basically are going to be left with some negative space. but we should have an interesting coverage at the end of it, of the experiment. So, because here you can already see how spread it is. So yes, and also like friendly reminder that once you have the dyes, the powders onto your skeins that are wet, you don't have the danger to breathe in those dry speckles of dyes. So it's really when it's wet that it's dangerous for your lungs because they're extremely fine particles and we don't want to breathe those. Just a friendly reminder. So we're pretty much at the right temperature here. So I'm going to put a 30 minutes timer for this pan and for my yarn mops as well. And we're going to do a quick look into the other pan before we do anything else. Okay, so 30 minutes. Okay, so we have our 30 minutes and we're going to do a quick look into the other pan. I don't want to touch it though. Okay, so I'm not going to touch it, but here I can see that we have negative space. It's kind of cold. And we have some negative space here as well. But we still have a lot of color in the pan. I just don't want to disturb the color and the water yet. So when we've reached the 30 minutes for the other pans, I will feel a little more comfortable playing in this one because we all, as you can remember, if you remember, we already have some citric acid in here, so I don't think we will need to add more. So it has been settling in. So this is where the reason why I said it might not be a good idea to have the citric acid as of right now, when we added it at the beginning of it, is because of those negative space here that I'm worried about. But we shall see what happens there. And if there's negative space, there's negative space. That's why we're experimenting, right? So I will see you in 30 minutes. Okay, so we're going to be washing off any excess dye. We're going to start with my, I guess we can say it's the control color. And we have a pretty decent coverage. We have a lot of negative space, which I was expecting. Just, you know, I was expecting that much actually. Simply to the fact that we were only going to speckle one side. So here, since it's speckled, I'm expecting quite a bit of bleeding just to the fact that I saw some dry powder on the zip ties. So we're just going to let this soak a little bit. And just a reminder that we have saffron spice and we have deep magenta that have a tendency to bleed a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of those colors in the water. So I'm going to let this soak for 10 minutes and we're going to come back to work with this. And just on the side, I have a bucket with our yarn mops. Those, we shouldn't see too much bleeding from them, but we never know. Okay, so I will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, let's take a look. And we have quite a lot of color, which I was expecting. So we're going to be doing a second bath for this one. Hopefully we won't have as much bleeding for the second one. Okay. We should be a little bit better. So we're going to let it soak for another 10 minutes and we'll be back. Okay. Oh, we still have a little bit of color, but that's good enough for me. So I'm going to set this aside in the spin dryer. And then we're going to do a second bath, but for the snow dye one. So we have a little bit less, and we have no color left in the bath, which I'm super excited about. So we're most likely going to see at least as much bleeding because we use the same dyes, but you can see already how different the dye took on this snow one. Okay, so I'm just going to let this aside for like 10 minutes, and we're going to come back to most likely do a rinse and a second bath for this one as well. So I will see you in a bit. Okie dokie. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but there's quite a bit of color in here, which I was expecting. So we're going to do a quick rinse and a second bath. But I think we've got most of the excess dye in the first one. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for like 10 minutes again, and we are going to come back and see how much we have leftover colors. And if we have any leftover colors, we'll see from there what we feel like, because it might not be too bad. So I will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, let's take a look at what we have. Oh, that's actually good. I don't see anything major, so we're going to put this in the spin dryer, and we're going to let it dry overnight, and I will see you tomorrow for the final result. Bye. And here's the final result for our snow dye experiment versus speckling experiment. And I also included the mini yarn mop that I was using to rinse off my finger gloves. Because I just wanted to show off how absolutely cute those minis turned out to be. As you can see, there is quite a bit of a difference between the snow dyed color versus the speckled one. For both cases, sorry, I knew that we would end up with lots of negative space just because of the natural just because first of all they are superwash, so I knew that it would strike faster, and I also knew that we would have a lot of natural resistance within the skeins, so I was not exactly, look how cute, super surprised to see that we have all that negative space, especially when it comes to the speckled one. We already had I've already added the citric acid, and if I had waited a little bit longer to incorporate it, we might have had less of the negative space. However, we would still have ended up with negative space just due to the fact that we had superwash yarn. That's just how life goes with superwash yarn. You will end up with negative space if you are going that route with your dyeing. And honestly, I don't mind it. I think it adds something to the yarn. It adds character, and it's pretty. And it's just a different way of seeing and doing things. The main difference here is that since the dye had a longer period of time before it properly struck the yarn, we ended up with colors that are much more blended here. They're a little bit murky, but they're not too murky. We still have some fun colors going on, where this is more of the original color that we had. You know what I mean? We can clearly see the dyes that we used, where here we combine those colors to create secondary and tertiary colors, which is fantastic. It's just two different approach, two different style. So you just need to find your voice and whatever you prefer. So in the end, I think it was pretty fun to do, and I would do it again. So I would do it again. I would try probably to do something different, choose different colors. I think it was fun to see how those colors interacted with each other. So I would probably, next time I think we should try non-superwash versus superwash and just do the exact same experiment. But since there's no more snow now, it's already, I'm saying that in next thing you know it will come back. Yeah, so it will most likely be with ice, so it would be a true ice dyeing experiment next time if we were to do it again. So I will think about it, and if you've liked the video, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye!